Yeah, hello from React Finland. It's Juho Websalainen, and this time we will discuss the topic of content management. So let's begin with a brief round of introductions. So Nidhi, maybe you can tell a couple of words about yourself.
So hi, I am Nidhi. I'm a front-end engineer at ShopTrade. I'm from India.
Introductions. So Nidhi, maybe you can tell a couple of words about yourself.
I guess. Okay, sorry about that. So I'm a front-end engineer from India. I am here to present a talk about Contentful and Headless. And I graduated last year in 2020. And it's my first talk. So hope you guys like it. That's it.
Yeah, maybe Matteo next.
Yes, I am Matteo Frana and I'm the founder of React Bricks. In my talk, I will present you React Bricks, and you will see that it is a new kind of CMS with visual editing, and it is based on React components. And so I will explain you how it works. It is based on React components, and so I will explain you how it works.
All right, and Facundo.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, I'm Facundo. I'm from Buenos Aires, Argentina. I'm developer relations engineer at Storyblock, and I will be talking about Headless CMS. What are the differences with the traditional CMSs, let's say, and a little demo to show how to link our React application to Headless CMS like Storyblock.
All right, so maybe start before going to the first demonstration. We can start with a more generic question, like how do you define content management, or what's content management for you? Who wants to go first?
I can start. So yeah. I think that it's a way of thinking how to organize in the best way the content, so the developers can create great experiences for the users, but also the content editors and content creators can have the best experience while working on the content, right? I mean, trying to make the work easier for the content editors to focus on what they, what's their task, and not having to worry about other things that are not fully related to the content creation process itself.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, I go.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add? Or
so as for what is content management?
Yes.
For me,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, I think that in content management, it's important to consider that there are at least 3 actors always involved, and so the developer, but also the content creators and the designer. And so we need to, with content management, we need to satisfy the needs of all 3 categories. And so while we see that headless CMS are for developers, and there are no-code tools who are more for content creators, we need to find a way to make everybody happy. And so I think that content management is something that should be at the crossing between the needs of developers and content creators and designers. So this is what I'd like to build.
Yeah. Nidhi, do you have anything to add? Or
so what I think content management is, which allows everyone to manage the content. For like, I work in a team, and if someone except the developer wants to add something, they can go ahead and add it without thinking much about the code. So it gives you all an access, like how you can manage the content to your website or whatever way you want to present it. So that's it.
All right. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for your definitions. I think it's a good time to move to the first demonstration by Facundo. So let's set it up.
Hello, everyone. My name is Facundo, and today we will talk about content management systems, Headless CMS, and how to get advantage of this kind of products in our React applications. First of all, I will introduce myself. My name is Facundo Giuliani. I'm from Buenos Aires, Argentina. I'm a full stack developer and systems engineer, and I'm working as a developer relations engineer at Storyblock. Storyblock is a headless CMS, and well, I will introduce the product later. I'm also a Prisma ambassador. Prisma is an ORM that we can use to manage databases in our applications. I'm an Auth0 ambassador. Auth0 is a platform to add authentication and authorization to our applications. And I'm a Cloudinary media developer expert. Cloudinary is a platform that we can use to manage video and images in our applications. The talk is not related to these 3 products. If you want to talk about them, if you want to talk about Storyblock or about anything, you can reach me at my Twitter account, which my handle is Facundo Zurdo, or you can write me a message through my website, which is fgiuliani.com. First of all, I wanted to introduce the concept of content management system, which is an application used to create and manage digital content. You may be familiar with the term because there are well-known content management systems like WordPress, Drupal, or Joomla that are used in a lot of websites that are still alive in the web. Almost the 80% of the websites available in the web are done or were created at the beginning using products like WordPress. And these applications, what allow us is to create content, generate content through an admin interface. So we can have people that is probably not fully related to the technology or with the programming or development, and create the content. And with the integration that this platform offers, we can store the information in a database, websites, using a view layer or a presentation layer. This kind of systems is super helpful and useful for different web projects that we can create and manage in small or big organizations where the people that is creating and generating the content is different than the one that is developing the website. But there's one problem with this type of traditional CMS, let's call it in that way. The problem is that we are forced to use a certain presentation layer that is tied to the product itself. So for instance, WordPress forces us to use PHP to create our websites and web applications. And we have to follow a lot of rules that the application or the platform set to work with it and with the content that is created. And here's where the concept of Headless CMS appears. A Headless CMS is a content management system where the content repository is separated or decoupled from the presentation layer. So in this case, the CMS will be only the admin interface that we will use to create and manage the content, and an API that we can call from a variety of front-end layers or different presentations that we can use for our projects. For instance, a website or a web application, a mobile application, let's say, or probably an application that we want to create for a smart device like a, I don't know, smartwatch or something like Amazon's Alexa product. And we can deliver content to those platforms. But what is cool here is that if we want to create a website, for instance, we can use the front end and the presentation layer that we want. I mean, as we have an API available to interact with, we can use, I don't know, frameworks like React, for instance, or Vue or Angular, or use other type of programming languages like ASP.NET, PHP, Python, or etc. So we can see or we can identify some differences between the monolithic or the traditional CMSs and the headless CMSs. We have the front end and the back end decoupled, so the admin layer that we have to create the content is not necessary forcing us to use any kind of presentation rules or layer. And that's why we have flexibility to display the content that we create and generate in the platform as we want and manage and order it as we want, not forcing the presentation layer to use a certain format of displaying the information. Doing this, what we are getting is both the developer experience and the user experience are as the best as we can. I mean, the users will be using an admin layer, a platform or an application to create the content that will be easier for them to manage and to generate or create the content that they want for the projects. But on the other hand, the developers will be working with the technologies that they are familiar with or the technologies that best fit or depending on the project that they are working. And as we said before, we will be able to create projects and applications, omni-channel applications, let's say, because we can deliver the same content that is created once in the admin panel of the CMS and distribute it to different channels like mobile applications or websites, for instance. In this Headless CMS category, I want to focus on Storyblock. Storyblock is a headless CMS that it has two main features, let's say. It has a variety of them and a lot of details that we can discuss in another opportunity, but I want to focus on two of the features or details that Storyblock offers to the developers to create great experiences both for the developers and for the users. Storyblock offers a real-time visual editor that the content creators can use to see how the website will look like with the content that they are generated at that moment. And on the other hand, probably to make the developers' lives easier, it has a component approach. I mean, the content generated inside the application or the admin panel of a Storyblock can be ordered as components, nestable components that we can manage and handle in the presentation layer of our project. As this conference is about React, we can link the concept of the component with React itself. I mean, inside Storyblock, we can create components that are called blocks, for example, for the different parts of a certain page. So we can have a component for the header, another for the hero, we can have another component for the footer. Storyblock drives the content following the theory of the atom design. So we can have components that they have components inside of them. And also, Storyblock gives the possibility to link the admin panel to your application, I mean the application that you are creating, the presentation layer that you are creating, to allow the content editors to see how the content that they are creating is going to look like. And to display this and to show this, probably it's better to show you a quick demo that I created using React and Storyblock as the backend of an application. And we can see these main features of Storyblock. So in this case, I have an application that I created and it's running locally because it's localhost 3000. And it's a blog site. I mean, this is an example. We have the blog with the header image. We have different components on our page. This is the home page. And we have blog posts here that we can click and we can go to the blog post details, the text of the blog posts, and etc. And we have an about page that we can also see here. And you can see that this application is running locally, but it's connecting to an Storyblock space. And I will show you the code of the application, or probably the main parts of the application, so you can get an idea of how it works. So this is a React project I want to focus on a couple of NPM packages that I'm using and enable us to link with Storyblock and get the best of it, of the experience. One of the packages is Storyblock Editable, that we will see later how it connects with the components that we have in our pages, or we call it stories. And another package is Storyblock JS Client, which will allow us to see the real-time preview in the visual editor. So we have here the main application, our main React application, and we see here that we are using a hook, use Storyblock is called. We are getting the slug or the path of the page that we are visiting now. This will be like a generic page that we will load. And getting the path of the page, we will send that slug or that path to this hook, use Storyblock. And, well, here I'm hard coding a preview as true property because we are going to work like this is not the published version of our web application. This is like the draft version or the testing version, let's say. And, well, we will call this hook to get the story related to the page that we are visiting. Now we will see in Storyblock application how this is managed and well, organized. And if we have information for the page or for the path that we are visiting, we will display a generic layout that we have for all the pages, and we have a dynamic component that we will see later how it works. But this dynamic component will load all the blocks that are inside the page that we are visiting, no matter which type of block is. So we have, as we saw before, we were including this use Storyblock hook. First of all, we are instantiating this Storyblock client, which is the one that I mentioned before. This is from the Headless CMS that we can use in our application. So we are instantiating this Storyblock client that we will use later, and we have here the use Storyblock hook that we created. We are using a state because we will handle information related to story. We init some event listeners that we will use in the page. For instance, this Storyblock bridge, the Storyblock bridge is the one that links our application with the control panel or the application of Storyblock where the content editors will create the content and will allow us to display this real-time preview. And we will say that whenever a user changes or publishes a story or any component in the control panel, we will reload our page to display the changes. And we will change the story that we are storing in the state of our page whenever it happens an input event. I mean the user press a key, for instance. And if we enter in edit mode, which is displaying the page inside Storyblock application, we will use the Storyblock client to bring all the information related to the story that we are visiting. In this case, is the draft version, as I said before. And we will set that story in our page. For this to work, we are adding a bridge to all the pages that we visit. This is a JavaScript script that we have to include in our pages, and is the Storyblock bridge. I mean, in this case, you will include this script only in the preview mode or in the testing environment or development environment. You won't include this in production because you don't want to do that. You don't need a real time preview for production. And well, those are probably the main parts of this hook that I wanted to show you. How we load information related to the story that we are visiting and the events that will affect to the story that we are seeing whenever we change something or publish the content or whenever the content is changed. So let's go to the Storyblock application, which is the URL is app.storyblock.com. Here I'm logged in because I already have an account and I already created this space with components. we will see that we have this control panel. I will go to the content menu here, and you will see that I have stories already created here. Stories will be like pages in a website or a web project, not necessary pages because as we said, we can create omni-channel experience and we don't have pages in, for instance, a mobile application. But probably that's the most familiar term that we can use to link the concept of story. And if I click, for instance, on the home story, you will see that I have here defined a preview URL, which is pointing to my local application. And we are loading here the story that we are editing inside Storyblock application and using the representation with the view layer that we created in our React application locally. So you can see that this is the same application that we saw before here in this tab, that we are loading exactly the same, but now we have the possibility to edit the content of our page and see how the changes will look like without having to save changes in our stories or even publish to a certain, I don't know, production version of our application or testing environment or staging environment. We will see the changes live without having to deploy anything. So as we saw before in the code, if I click, for instance, here, this is a component of type teaser. I will show you later how the components are rendered in the application. But you can go here to this component, you can see the text here, and we can edit the text live, and you will see that affecting the application that we created. I mean, this is the local host 3000, so this is our local application running, and the content being linked from Storyblock application and being displayed using our local application. So you can edit the content of the page, you can change this text, you can go here, you can change the text, you can go here, you can change the title of this section of the page, related post testing, let's say, or we can go to the page itself and we have different blocks or components, and we can add new ones. Like I can go here and add blocks. These are the different types of blocks that I have available in my space because these were defined by the administrator of the space or probably the developers. You can define as many blocks as you need or you want. You can set the different fields that you want to have for each type of component. For instance, this text component will have only one field, which is the text itself. So we can see that I can enter this text. We can add other components like, I don't know, a teaser, which will have also a headline and an image that I can upload. This is the headline of the teaser. You can see that the blocks that I'm adding have different styling or different CSS defined, and that's defined in the React application that I created and I did as I needed or as I wanted. We can change the order of the components here, so I can rearrange here and move this here, here. You can see that I'm changing this and seeing in real time the changes that I'm applying, and I didn't click this button that we have in the top right corner that says save. I mean, if I click here on save, what we are doing is editing the draft version of my story. That probably we can say, I don't know, the testing environment or the staging environment will consume the draft version of our story. We can even publish it and see it in production, the story that I just created. And doing this, what we can do is giving the possibility to the content editors to create content like blog posts or different pages for a website without having to do a deploy or requesting changes or requesting certain steps of a workflow to the developers. I mean, the code of our application is not changing at all, and we are publishing new content that could be, I don't know, calling a webhook or using a webhook to trigger a deploy that generates a static page that will display the new blog post that I just created. And this is all enabled in this visual editor that Storyblock offers to the users. As I said before, we will have a dynamic component that we are using in our application. This dynamic component has a list of components that we allow and we support in our application. And we link a type of components that we define inside Storyblock with a component that we have in our React application in this case. And we have the dynamic component that, depending on the component that is coming from the Storyblock API, we will render that certain type of component. So for instance, I don't know, you saw that in my page, here we have the page which has a collection of blocks which are dynamic component because we are able to add any type of component in our page. And for instance, I added a teaser. The teaser has the styling that we define here with different classes. We have the headline that I inserted in Storyblock application. We have an image that we can upload. I also created a text component with the text property that we can set. We can define the markup that we need for each one of the components that we will support both in Storyblock visual editor and in our application. And you see here that I'm using the SB editable from the other NPM package, which is called Storyblock editable that I mentioned before. And what we do is create a component, and I mean an HTML element, and we set the SB editable here with the block information that is coming from the dynamic component class or object, let's say. And you can see then that I can insert any type of component and our page will render it without any kind of limitation or any kind of problem or issue. So this was a quick example. If you want to learn more about Storyblock or Headless CMS, these are some useful links. You have an explanation of what the Headless CMS is. You have more information related to the visual editor, the repository of the Storyblock editable package that I used, or there's a developers page, the developers hub in Storyblock page with a lot of information and tutorials related to different technologies, frameworks, and programming languages that you can use to create your applications linking to a Headless CMS like Storyblock. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this talk. And well, you can contact me on Twitter or my website if you have any questions. And again, thank you for this opportunity. Bye.
All right. So let's move to the discussion. So I don't have any questions at YouTube at the moment, but I think it's quite impressive how interactive you can make it for developers. I mean, the way we do React Finland website or our things, it's quite, let's say it's different. So we push, we have GraphQL API on top of GitHub, but and we use the GitHub as editor, so we don't have anything this visual. But so where do you think Storyblock itself is going? What do you have in mind for its future?
Well, Storyblock team is working now on a version 2 of the product to improve the user interface and the experience of creating the content. And well, now it's in a beta program that anyone is invited to join. If you go to storyblock.com/b2, you can join the beta program and start playing with this beta version. The idea is to improve the user experience, to create the content and the interface to work on that in the application and the visual editor. Probably to generate more interaction between the users that are creating the content itself. Again, not forgetting that there are users, there is people that is using the application to create the content and focus on the content editors, the content creators, the designers that have to create great experiences for the users, for the final users, and trying to make the best as possible to offer a great experience for them.
Right. So it's still a little silent on YouTube side, but does anyone else have any thoughts on the presentation or this? I guess it's more about this headless approach that's giving you a lot of power. Nidhi or Matteo?
Okay.
Yep.
So, well, the presentation by Facundo, I think it was great, and I think that you have quite a different approach to visual editing. I see that we are aiming both at providing a visual editing experience for content editors, and I think that we take different approach both at a developer level and at a user interface level, because for developers you have this concept of a JavaScript bridge, while you will see that in our case Regrex really just work with React. We chose React as a core feature for our development. So you will see that in a way it's more integrated already with React without having any external script, but because of course we are limited in a way to that sort of platform. And for the visual editing, we take a different approach because we have direct visual editing like you see in pages or Word document. So you write directly over the content. And so, but I think that we have similar ideas implemented in different ways.
Yeah. I think you have sort of some kind of basic. If you look from certain direction, you have the basic blocks that you have some kind of API for the developer, that for different like for the mobile app and website and whatever you might have. But then how you do these editors, there are like so many ways how you can do it. Since there are no more questions, I guess we move to Matteo's demonstration, then discuss a little bit more. I think that's a good time to do. A good thing to do. Yep.
I'm Matteo Frana. Hi everybody, I'm Matteo Frana and I'm the founder of Regrex. What is Regrex? Regrex is a tool that allows you to create a CMS with visual editing using React components. So, Regrex is both a React library that you use to create your content blocks and a software as a service where the content is persisted. It works with Next.js or with GATSBY or vanilla React, of course. And why you created it? Well, at the end of 2019, we were using WordPress as a headless CMS together with GATSBY, but we wanted to find something that was more suitable for us as a React skill web agency and that was better for our customers. And well, I couldn't find what I was looking for because headless CMSs are great for developers, but they are not great for content creators because they are faced with gray forms. And visual builders like Wix, they are great for content creators, but they are not great for developers because you cannot read the code as you would like, and they're not great for designers because you cannot create the exact design system. And so I started to imagine my ideal CMS, and well, it should be as easy as Wix for content creators, but with your own design system and with React for the development. We wanted to be excited for a CMS again, and well, I think that we got it. So, how do you build such a product? Well, the ingredients are the coupled APIs as a service, as you have in headless CMSs, React, and true visual editing, which is the editing over the content where you write the text and you click on images like you do in Word or Pages. Then you need blocks that represent the design system and constraints in order to be sure that nobody will break the design system. Well, if we mix these ingredients, we see that React and blocks go very well together. They're just React components. And constraints can be expressed with props of these components and with a schema that defines how the props are mapped to the controls that the user will see, and that enforce validation rules over the content. As for visual editing, React Bricks exports its visual editing components like rich text, image, repeater that you can use in your JSX in order to have the visual editing experience. So we have this concept of visually editable content blocks that we call bricks. And the bricks need to be shared between the admin interface and the website, because what you see in the admin interface is what you need to get in the front-end website. And the trick here is to put the admin interface inside of the website so that the pages and the admin can both import the same bricks. To start using React Bricks, you just launch our CLI, so npx create React Bricks app, and you answer some questions, and you have a project scaffolded in no time. So, enough talking, let's see it in action. Okay, here we are. This is a project that I just scaffolded using the CLI, and it is a project using Next.js and Tailwind. And you see that you have some default content here that uses our React Bricks UI set of bricks. It is a set of open source bricks that you can use as a reference to create your own bricks and to start playing with React Bricks. And well, I can click this button here to go to the admin interface, but since I am already logged in the admin, you see that I have also on the right bottom corner this pencil that I can use to start editing this page. So I click it, and this is the React Bricks editor. On the left you see that you have the pages like about us or home, and if I click in the middle section, you see that this is a brick, what you see inside the pink border, and I can directly edit it. So I click on the text, and welcome to React Bricks, React Finland. You see that I write as if I were in Word or Pages. And I can also apply styles to the text. For example, I can make this text bold. And this brick here that uses a rich text define that this rich text could only have bold and links. You can decide which features you want to allow. For example, I could also add italic, code, highlight, an order list, etc. And you can also define a render function so that if you want a bold text to be pink, you can just provide your own render function for the bold marker. Starting from V3, you will be able also to create your own plugins, so extend the functionality of the rich text. So on the right, instead you have the sidebar, where you can see that I can change the props that are not directly editable. So for example, I can say that this title size is medium or large, change the text gradient, or change the background color, for example. And everything here is defined by this brick. This is what is defined in the schema of the brick. So I just define that I have two collapsible group, one layout, the other title, and that I have in the title group this select control and this radio control, and here in the layout I have this control of type color. And well, everything is completely configured inside of this brick. And if you would like to have some other kind of control instead of the one that are provided by React Bricks, you could also create use a custom component here. It is just a value on change simple interface to create a custom component. If I go to another brick, you see that the interface changes because this brick has another schema, and of course all of these values that you define in the sidebar become props for your components to be used. So let's see what happens if I click on an image. You see that I can upload an image from my computer, and I can also provide an alternate text, for example, theme. This is the React Bricks theme, by the way, and a SEO-friendly name. And you see that for this brick, I have also this add new button here. And this is because you can also have nested blocks. So for example, I can add a new feature. Let's add 2 features. And I can then click on the feature, and you see that we have the editing interface of this brick, which is a feature item. So I can say great for marketing and great for devs. And I can make this text blue and this one green and change the order. I move this up. So this is great when you have a sort of gallery, for example, when you can have your image brick and put it inside of another brick and repeat it. Well, you see that here on the right you have this item tab, which is for this repeated item. You have the block tab that we saw before, and you have also this page tab. This is where you define the properties for the page. For example, the visibility, if it is published or draft, if the page structure is unlocked or locked. If I lock the page structure, you see that all the controls to add new blocks or remove a block or sort the block are disappeared. You see, if I unlock that you have this remove, duplicate, add, etc. And locking the structure is useful because here we are an admin user, but our editor users will then just be able to edit the content but not change the structure for this page. Okay, let's unlock. And the page attributes are slug, name, author, publish date, and we have also the concept of page type. You can create your own page types, for example, blog, products, and they will appear on the left in another collapsible group. And well, page types may have their own default language, default content, allowed and exclude blocks, etc. Then you can add tags for this page, a feature image, and SEO meta tags, etc. And you can also define your own custom fields, both at an app level or a per page type level. So for example, if you want to add JSON LD fields for SEO, you can do whatever you want. Okay, let's save, because I didn't enable autosave. And well, here you can test your design at different resolutions. You can configure these resolutions on the Regrex config. And well, if your components are dark mode compatible, you can test them in dark mode. You just provide a toggle function for the dark mode and an eventual class that you have to apply to the content. And well, now let's see the playground. The playground is where you can see your design system. So these are all the blocks all the bricks that we can use, and you can play with them and see the props that they have in a certain moment. And they are the React Bricks UI example blocks, but for this custom hero unit here, which is created in this very project. You see that when you click on a brick, you can also see this link, view source code on GitHub. This is because they are open source bricks, and you can click and just see the code if you want to create something similar to this brick. Okay, let's see the settings, which is the last tab here. Since we are logged in as admin, we can change the app name, we can add new languages. For example, let's add Italian. Regrex is fully internationalized, so you will see that we'll be able to add the translation for Italian. And if you start with the Next.js with the internationalization starter, it is already integrated with the Next.js internationalization routing. We can set the full language and give a build webhook. deploy now button. So the editors, if they have the permission, will be able to trigger a deploy of the static website. Let's save the setting and go to the editor. And you see that now we have this Italian, which has not a translation yet. So I click on Italian. Yes, I want to create a translation. And here I can change the text. Ciao, React Finland. And then this page is independent. So here I can change the props. I can change the image if I want. Okay, let's save. And I want to very quickly show you some code. So this is the project. It's the Next.js project where you have the pages folder. In the pages folder, you have the front-end pages. For example, this is lag, which is a catch-all page. And you see that it has get static props, get static paths, and well, the prop that comes from get static props, in this case the page, is passed to the page viewer of React Bricks. In the admin folder, you see all the admin pages. For example, the editor here, they're just thin wrappers around the editor component from React Bricks, and the admin component provides the authentication layer. But let's go to the React Bricks configuration, which is more interesting. You see that here you can configure all the variables for the React Bricks environment, and the important things are page types and bricks. On page types, you can define other page types, as I told you. The interface for the page type is this one, so you can give allowed block types, excluded block types, the default status, and you can also define the custom fields, as I told you. But let's go to the bricks. The exported bricks are the one from React Bricks UI, as I told you, and this custom hero unit. Let's see the hero unit, and this is a brick. You see that a brick is just it has type brick from React Bricks, but this is just a React functional component with a schema. Here you see the JSX for this component, which has an image component from React Bricks to allow visual editing, a text component, and a rich text component. Here you see where you can define the allowed features, and here you see that I have overridden the render code for the code marker. I can, for example, also say that render bold is, and I can provide my own render function. And below there is the schema. The schema defines the name for this block, and it has the default props when a new block of this kind is added to the page. And you can see the side-edit props, which is the array of controls that you see on the right. This can be an array of props or an array of collapsible group of props. And you see that I have this prop of type select with its option. If I click here, you can see what are the kind of blocks. You see Boolean, date, image number, etc. And there is also the custom block. With the custom block, React Bricks expects a component where you can provide your own component. Okay, I think that you got a taste of React Bricks, and I hope that you liked it. Let me know. So to recap, React Bricks is just React. You don't have to go back and forth from your Headless CMS to VS Code. You define your content blocks and the fields in your React components. So great developer experience. You have best-in-class visual editing, great user experience. You can define your exact design system, so great designer experience. To learn more, you can go to reactbricks.com/learn, where you have a step-by-step tutorial with gamification, and if you get a high score, you will receive a surprise. Or you can see the full documentation at docs.reactbricks.com. What's next? Really, we don't have time to see what's in the upcoming V3. Maybe I can tell you something in the questions time. I'm more interested in giving you our long-term vision for React Bricks. We want to stay a one-stop shop, so provide you the React library, the backend, image optimization without any external service. We want to create a marketplace so that developers will be able to sell their sets of bricks on our marketplace. We want to provide top-notch support to our customers. And we want to stay framework agnostic. So React Bricks works with Next.js, it works with GATSBY, it will work with Remix Run, and switching from one framework to another is a matter of minutes because you use React Bricks component, which stays the same across frameworks. We want to stay a low-code tool, so we won't aim at being a no-code tool. Our focus is on developers. And we want to build a community of developers who want to change the way people edit websites. So please join our Discord community that you see on our Twitter profile at React Bricks. Okay, Q&A.
So, I think it's really impressive what you were showing, because I mean that's sort of the experience you want as an editor and as a developer, and it seems very integrated, well integrated to React. We don't have any questions this time either, so it's that's interesting. But what did you think?
Hey, Matthew, I really liked how you are using rich text directly as a component in your code. That was really a great thing to know. Like in Contentful, we do it separately, but yeah, I really like that approach, like how you can fetch the data in that format. So that was a great thing, great learning for me as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any comments, Facundo?
Yeah, I was thinking that it's a very good idea of getting advantage of some React properties and the way of integrating and making it. I mean, the experience of adding blocks or adding components inside of the components is super cool and super smooth. So the possibility of creating a page is I mean, I imagine that the goal is to offer a great user experience, and I think it's achieved because I mean, creating a page was super easy.
Yes, thank you.
So, what are your future plans? So, like, what do you want to do, achieve this year or next year, or like, sort of where is it going? We didn't have so much time to discuss the future of Regrex in the presentation.
Yes. Okay. May I share my screen so that I show you a slide that I didn't have the time to show.
Yeah.
And it is this one. You see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. This is what we are working on right now. I told you that we support GATSBY, and we support GATSBY from v3, which really now it's in alpha, but you can already scaffold a project for GATSBY from the CLI. It will be a project using the version 3.0.0 alpha 9, which is indeed very stable. But it is a thing that we are working on releasing v3 0.0, and GATSBY will be fully supported. We want to create a media library, and here you see that things are organized by blue developer and pink for content creators and yellow for designers, because we always have in mind these three personas around CMS. And we are going to create a media library like the one that you have in WordPress. So instead of always re-uploading new images, you will have the ability to choose from an already uploaded image from the media library. And we'll have the concept of stories. So you see that you can tweak all the props and the text and images for a brick. And well, you'll be able to save a configuration of a brick into a story. So if you want the hero unit with the blue background and a certain gradient, you'll be able to save this story and save it as a blue hero unit, so that you can reuse it without having to change all the props individually. Then we'll have an extensible rich text component. So if you want to create a new button, not only bold, italic code, unordered list, etc., you will be able to create your button, and it could apply either a marker or a new block inside the rich text or you will be able really to tweak all the to change the behavior of Regrex rich text at a deep level. And then we want to improve to reduce the bundle size of Regrex and have a lighter JSON. And we have already a JSON structure which goes on the wire that is about half with v3 instead of v2. Then you'll be able to organize your bricks in categories, and you can set tags over your bricks so that you can quickly search your bricks, because we have customers who have hundreds of bricks, and so having the ability to categorize and search on bricks is fundamental. Then we have webhooks. You saw that we have a webhook to trigger a redeploy of the static website, but we want to let the user have other webhooks so that they can be notified about every event in React Bricks, and so that they can trigger any other kind of action if they want, and backup and restore of content. And most important, we want to create a marketplace. So on the React Bricks website, you will find the marketplace button, so that you will be able to, developers will be able to create starters and a set of bricks, and set them as free, or be able to sell them on the React Bricks marketplace. So that for developers, it's great, again, because they can create their bricks and sell them. And for content creators, it's great because they can maybe already find a set of bricks that is suitable for them without having to reinvent the wheel every time. And this is our idea for the next stage.
Yeah, I think it's a lot to do. It's a lot of work, but I bet it's already promising and in a good shape.
Yes, and well, I think that we'll be releasing it at the end of September. Is many things, but about a half of them is already created and stable. So by the end of September, I have all these.
All right, that's very, very cool. So we have one demonstration left, since there are no questions at YouTube yet. I hope we get some. So I think we move to the demonstration by Nidhi. So let's move on to that one.
Images, code a feature. Hi, so in this talk, we are going to talk about Contentful and Headless. Before we start, thank you React Finland for giving me this opportunity. I am Nidhi. I'm a front-end engineer at ShopTrade. I am a Google Summer of Code alumni. You can connect with me on Twitter. My handle is nidhija98, and on GitHub, my handle is nidhikja. Let me walk you through the agenda of my talk. So we'll talk about what is Headless CMS, why do we need it. Then we'll talk about a specific Headless CMS called Contentful, the features of Contentful, where I'll walk you through the website of Contentful and how we can create content model and content in that. And let's code a feature where we will we'll connect our front end with the Contentful. And then you can ask me any questions if you have. What is Headless CMS? So the word headless comes into the picture with an idea of chopping the head, which in our case is front end, from the back end, which in our case is content management repository. So that is what headless stands for. Previously, the traditional CMS that we had, in that we used to bundle up everything from our content, images to our code in one single bucket. Now, with the modification of content management systems, we have a new approach called Headless CMS, where we have separated our front end and the content modeling and the CMS completely. And further, to connect that CMS with front end, we can use an API for seamless display across all the different devices. So previously, when CMS were designed, the way content was served was mainly through the website, but now it can be served via wearables or smartphones, etc. So that's also the problem Headless CMS covers. Now let's talk about why do we need a Headless CMS. It unifies your entire data into one single headless content hub. It provides you with a collaborative platform, like your entire team can collaborate there. You can make your content highly reusable and accessible. So for example, you can create one content type, and then you can create further you can add content using the same content type. Then there is separation of code and content in a headless site. CMS makes life easier for content editors. They can edit the content directly in CMS without worrying about the code. So what is Contentful? Contentful is a headless CMS, which is an API first content management platform where you can create the data, modify it, and publish it on any digital channel. So the structure of Contentful is, you have organizations. Once you log in, you have organization. And each organization, there can be multiple spaces. Spaces are for projects, specific to project. You have environment, and then you add content model. Content model, when you add a content model, you add a specific content type, thinking about the idea behind is to add what type of content you have to add later on. For example, say I can create a content type page, and then I can use it to create different content. For example, I can use the same content type page to create home page, to create product pages, etc. So this is about the structure of Contentful. Let's take a tour of Contentful to understand features of Contentful and how we can add the data. So for that, once you go to your Contentful website, you can see this here. If you do not have an account, you need to sign up first, and if you have, just log into that. Once you log in, you will be redirected to a page like this, to this URL. Here you can see, like, I have added my organization as test. This I created for the talk only, and then you can add your talk space, your space here. My space right now is talk space, where we are going to create some content. We can add some content here and some content model. So to understand like what exactly we are going to add here, let's go to this website. So I have an Next.js application, and it has a title and H1 tag. For H2 tag, like, I want different blogs, and each blog will have a different title, obviously. So I want to create blogs with different title. I want to display the list of titles that I can have. So let's go back to our Contentful and create a content model, where we'll add a content type called blog. So once you create the content type, you need to add fields in this. You can choose any of the fields here as per your requirement. It can be rich text, number, date and time, location, media, boolean, JSON object, reference. I'll go with text since I only need to add the title there. It will be my blog title, and since it's going to be short, so I'll be selecting short text. You can select long text as well. Create settings. Now you can add different validations here. For example, you can, if it's going to be a required field, you can check mark this one. If you want it to be a unique field, check mark this one. Character count, if there is a certain set of character that should be there, you can select from here. Then match a specific pattern. If you want to add a regex, you can do it from here. Prohibit a specific pattern and accept only specified value. You can change it as per your requirement. Now I want to add one more field. I want to add a media there. So let's name it blog image. I want one file at a time, but if you want to upload many, you can just go ahead with that as well. Now let's create this one. Save it. And then we can add content from here. So we have created only one content type right now. This is blog, but once you will add multiple, you can have multiple in the drop downs. So let's add our first blog and name it blog example 1 and add one and add a media. To add a media, we have two options: add new media and add existing media. So let's add new media here. To upload any asset, you need to add a title and description and file. These two are optional, so even if you skip these, it won't matter. But since it's required, you need to upload an image here. So you can select any image that you want to. I want to go with this one, so I'll add it here. Once your image is uploaded, you need to publish it, and as soon as you publish it, your status will change from draft to publish. So I published it and changed from published. It changed from draft to published. Now going back to your blog 1, you need to publish this exam blog 1 as well. Now let's add another blog. Let's give it a title, blog example 2. Add media. Let's choose add existing media this time. Let's select from all the images that we have. Publish it. So now we have 2 content blogs added over here. So to upload any image or any media here, what you need to do is you need to go to this media tab, and here you can add assets. So if you want to add single asset, you can go and select a single asset. If you want to add multiple assets, you can add it. So single asset is how we have added that new media when we were adding the content. And to add multiple asset, you just need to go there, click on multiple assets, select files to upload, and here you can choose out of these, like how number of images that you want to add, and then after that just upload it, and your images will be uploaded. And then you can just, these images will be uploaded as draft, and then you need to publish them. You can manage apps from here if you want to, and then we have settings from where you can manage the settings of the space. So now we have added our content model. We have also added our content. So let's connect this content with our Next.js application. Let's fetch the data there. To include any content, first we need to add a Contentful package. It will be npm install Contentful. Once your package is installed, to get the data from Contentful, you can either write GraphQL queries or you can use getStaticProps function. I use the getStaticProps function here. So let's say export sync function get static props here. Now we need to import one thing from Contentful package, which is create client. So let's import create client from Contentful. And now, so how will the Contentful know, like how our code knows which space it has to connect from Contentful, right? So for that, we need to create const client equals to create client, where you will pass space, that's a space ID, which will be a string, and an access token, which is again going to be a string. To generate the space ID and access token, you need to go there in the settings, in the API keys, need to add a new API key here, and you can generate, you can see we have our space ID and access token. So let's add our space ID, and then let's add our content token, access token here. So now we have connected our Contentful with our Next.js application. To get this data, let's create another const res, which will client dot get entries, and which will take a specific content type. So right now we have one content type that we have added in the beginning, which was blog. Here you can check. So you need to pass like which exact content type you have to pass. So we have blog here that we need to add. So we added block and we have generated a response. Now we need to return it so that we can pass it as a prop. Props here will be an object where my name props is blocks, and this will be res.items. To access this props, let's pass it in our component down there, console, and check it in our console. What props do we get? Let's go to our website, check it here. What can I see in my console here? So see, we have an object. It has a object prototype. I must have missed something. Hit entries. I have passed the content types. Okay, let's reload the website once. So now you can see we have our two blogs here, and we have in blogs we have fields, and each field has a blog title that we have added. So to show this blog title here, let's write our map method. So it will be props dot blogs dot map, where we will, let's name it blog, and further access it here for the h2 tag. And this will be blog dot fields dot title, and the ID that I want to pass here is blogs.sys.id. You can add anything else if you want to in the ID, blog.sys.id. So now we have added it here. Let's save it and check if we have got the data there or not. Oops, I guess I missed something. It's blog.fields.title. So blog.fields.blog title is there. So blog title. Now we'll get it. So see, we have got the titles here. If you want to add the image there, then just we can get it from blog image dot fields dot file dot url. So this is how you can get the data from Contentful. Few suggestions: do not use my space token, space and access token, and since I'll be pushing that code, it would be. So this is about Contentful and how you can get the data. If you want to pass this data as a prop to other component, you can do it from here.
Yeah, I think we move to discussion. So do you think you can combine this system with the other ones? So you will use Contentful as a backend and then use something like Regrex on top, or how do you see this?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, it was more for Matteo. Maybe that is it possible to combine something like Contentful with another system like Regrex or Storyblock?
Well, I think it's possible, but we had to provide a great experience to a Contentful user or Storyblock user. We should have a an embeddable version of React Bricks, which just edit a piece of content. For example, let's say that we take the page as a good piece of content, because with the headless, you don't have this concept of page. Page is just another entity, but you have any entity that you want. But if you want to create a page entity, we could just bind the entity in your Headless CMS with a page ID of React Bricks, and then we could have an embeddable version of React Bricks in order to edit the landing page, let's say, for example, for a product of an e-commerce inside of an Headless CMS. Really, this is a thing that we have in mind to do, especially for e-commerce in Shopify. This is a thing that we are working on to provide a landing page for products in Shopify, but of course it is an interesting thing to integrate with Headless CMSs too, so we can talk about it.
Any thoughts from Storyblock side, Facundo? Do you think you could use somehow Contentful with Storyblock, or?
Yes, I think that they somehow they collide in the way of how storing the content and how delivering. I mean, the concept behind using an API to connect and to grab information from a service that is providing the content already created and being stored probably is very similar. I mean that I can't imagine a way where you would use both products at the same time, probably because they have the same purpose, let's say. But yes, I mean, again, I think that the goal behind of this is make the job easier for the people that is creating creating the content and using it in the front end of our application, using different technologies, using different frameworks, using different programming languages, and leaving that decision to be made by the developers, for instance, and the designers to implement the content created in the best way and deliver the content in the best way. So I think that the final goal is to offer a great experience for the user that is using our products, let's say.
Yeah, so I don't have any specific questions from YouTube at the moment. But so I guess the question is, what are the takeaways from the session? What did we learn, or like what are the things to keep in mind, maybe especially for people coming to content management?
Yeah, okay, I will start. I would say that the complete concept of Headless CMS or the new concept of Headless CMS is super cool to consider because there are a lot of websites living there that are made or were created using traditional CMSs, which are great. I mean, they work for certain purposes or certain type of projects, but there are other kinds of projects that probably get more advantage of new programming languages or new frameworks that allow the developers to create better experience for the users, or I don't know, be more flexible about the way of how the content is delivered to the users. And I think that having different alternatives in the market and in the community to select or to evaluate, it is super cool for the developers, for the content creators, and well, I think that the complete content community, let's say, get advantage of this, of a lot of different alternatives.
Okay, well, I think that the takeaway from what we can get from these talks is that really maybe in a very near future we'll see another shift of paradigm. So we saw the shift of paradigm between the monolithic to the headless CMSs, which is a great shift for developers because you develop in a better way and you have an overall better architecture, more scalability, more security, more performance for the end user. Don't forget the the fourth actor, which is the user that reads the content that we create. But well, I think that there will be another shift, which is that of having CMSs that are as easy as Wix to use, and which combines these two words of being great for developers and great for content creator. My vision is that in the near future, people will edit websites visually, and where you can already do it using tools like Wix. That is not your own design system. It is not your corporate website, but really we will come to a way to edit your corporate website with your own design system, your own corporate image in a visual way. This is my vision and my what I hope that will happen very soon, because the experience is really better for everybody.
Yeah, I think so a lot of web development itself is moving to the web over some time, so that we spend less time in the editors, or maybe developers spend time in editors, but then you can do more and more at the web itself. So it seems that the technology that's coming up or already exists is sort of tailored for this purpose. And Nidhi, did you have any takeaways or points to make?
Yeah, so I certainly agree with the idea Matteo has to, like, Headless provides us with an opportunity to edit a website visually. So the whole concept of Headless is based, like, you completely segregate the front end with the back end, and still it provides you with power that you can edit your code, like keeping the code on a separate thing, like on a front end, and keeping your content managed content differently. So that's how, like, a big organization can, like, some member can add it content, and some other, like, as a developer I can code it, and then we both can combine it. It makes the whole environment quite collaborative. So yeah, that's my takeaway from the stuff.
Yeah, so thank you for the session. Since we don't have any questions from YouTube, I think we can, unless anybody has questions in mind or something to discuss, we can wrap up the session. Nothing on mind. So I guess please, thank you. So we say goodbye. Yep.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.